Hello, my name is Hakon, and today I'm going to show you another little fun thing to do on the Empress Effects Zoia. The idea I had today was I was thinking how some synthesizers, even though they are monophonic, you can only play one note at a time, they still have more than one oscillator for quite a sort of a rich sound, and some of them have controls for both spreading the frequencies and the stereo effect of multiple voices that are still played as a single voice on the synthesizer. So what I've done today is I've created this little patch. I'll just play that for you now, just so you can hear what it sounds like. So now I don't have any spread on at all. So this is the frequency spread. And then I have a stereo spread. Well, the frequency gets quite far apart there. Okay, so relatively simple concept. This one, I'll just run you through this. So what we start with is a number of different oscillators. I've chosen to use triangle oscillators today, and I've got 7 of them here. And my thought was that you would have one that defines the middle point, both frequency and stereo spread. So that's centered in the middle, and both for the frequency and for the left and right stereo. And then we have, I think of them sort of in sets of 2. So a set of 2 oscillators would then go off a little bit below, a little bit above, next to a little bit more above, below, and etc. That sort of principle was what I had in mind. I think what I did here was just to make it easier when I was making it was the first oscillator is static. The next 2 are the extremes. So they go the furthest away from the center. The next 2 are, I think those are the ones that are closest, and the last 2 are the ones that are between those. Because I'm using several oscillators in one go, I thought I should have some way of controlling them all at the same time, because I'm thinking this should be monotimbral or certainly monophonic. And so all the frequencies are now connected to this value module here. And this value module is in turn controlled by a keyboard module down here. Of course, I could have used any other means of creating different notes, but today I thought I'd use a keyboard for a change. I usually use a sequencer, but today it's a keyboard. And because a keyboard can be defined to any notes you want, it's basically just a set of CV values that you can send to anything, really, which is quite useful. Okay, so I've got the value module here that is controlling the frequency spread, and I'm sending this to a multiplier. And this is a 100% connection strength, so it sends its full level to the multiplier. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to be able to control the degree to which this control changes the frequencies, and I thought I'd put it via a multiplier module so I can go and change that dynamically or manually in this case as I go along, just to see what actually sounds the best. So here the value from 0 to 1 here on the value module is then multiplied by 0.0022, and the interval for a single note, for a single semitone on the Zoia is 0.00883, I think it is. I'm sort of aiming now to have a frequency spread of up to about a quarter tone. So I've taken and multiplied it now by 0.0022. If you increase this, it will eventually spread the frequency all across the spectrum. But if you keep this really low, it's just quite a subtle difference. And this is then sent to 3 of these oscillators up here, and the reason for that is that this is a positive output, and I want half of my oscillators to go below the bass tone and half to go above. So this goes to those 3 which are meant to go up from the fundamental note of the primary oscillator. It also goes into an inversion module over here, and that sends its output to the remaining 3 oscillators. So they go below the fundamental note, the bass note for the patch here. And these are connected up with, I'll just show you now. So if I do like this, that's my shift button is getting a little bit dodgy actually. There we are. Okay, so if you look at the screen now, you can see that one of the oscillators is getting a 100% connection. That's the one here. And one of them is getting a 66.7% connection. So I just thought because I've got 7 oscillators now, I just divided them equally through the so they sort of evenly spread. So this gets a 66.7% connection, and this one gets a 33.3% connection, which means that this quarter tone spread, the only one oscillator here, or actually 2, because the ones from the inverted value, they also get 100%, 33 and 66. And so you have 2 oscillators that are 100% spread away from the original, and that is, so quarter tone, they would be a quarter tone away when the spread value is at full. And then you have 2 oscillators that would be at 2/3 away and 2 that would be at 1/3 away at the most. And of course, if you use smaller values, that spread just gets smaller relatively, which is the whole point of the spread function. Right, I think that was clear, but if you do have any questions about it, please leave a comment in the comment section and I will answer it as well. Now, the second value here is for the stereo spread, and I have to put that on the second page. I'm going to just move this across now to the second page. And here we have an audio mixer, which I thought was the easiest way to do this. So this audio mixer takes an input from each of these 7 oscillators, and this is an audio mixer with, I'll just show you now, when you make an audio mixer or when you edit it, you can set the number of channels and what kind of input, mono in this case. And panning is by default set to off. If you want to do this, you need to set panning to on. So then you get extra pads here for panning control. So the first 7 here are the audio inputs, and then follows the gain control. And I see they're all attenuated a little bit because it was starting to clip. Actually, I saw a clip there. Now, the important ones are the panning control. So there's one for each of the 7 channels, and you see they've all got quite varying values now, and that is because these are connected up to this panning controlled output here. And of course, for the panning, I don't really want to choose what kind of range I'm using. Unlike the frequency, it makes more of a difference what kind of range I need to be using. For the panning, I want to use the full range. So these ones connect up to the modules directly or indirectly via an inverter as well. So the panning control goes to, I'll just show you the connections now. So it goes to these panning controls on the mixer as 100%, 33.3%, and 66.7%. It also goes to an inverter here, which is connected to 3 other channels, also then with 100, 33.3, and 66.7. So, which means that, again, just like with the frequency spread, 2 oscillators are spread up to, of course, it's a multiplication of the input now. So the value here, if it is 1, this value, that means you get the full stereo spread, which means you have 2 oscillators that are completely left and right, and then you have 2 that are at 66.6 and 1 at 33 relative to the sum. Once you reduce the value here, of course, that stereo spread goes down and down and down and down until it's mono in the center at the end. So that is how it works, simply put. And I was meaning to move that now. Oh. And I'll just move that over here again. And so that's what it is. That's all it is to it. There's nothing fancy schmancy going on there. It's quite simple, really. It's all about connection strengths, and that's it. So of course, you can go and change some of the notes individually as well. If you want to make sort of a more dramatic drone, cacophonous drone effect. And there you have it. So yeah, 7 oscillators. You could use more, of course, and the frequency is adjusted by one value module that is multiplied by how much you want the frequency to change, and the stereo is controlled by a value module that spreads across the spectrum of left and right. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the principle of it, and you can use it for other things, of course. Of course, using this many oscillators does use quite a bit of CPU. On the plus side, there's absolutely no need for a reverb if you use this kind of method, because the oscillators themselves create quite a reverby effect, and you wouldn't want to use a reverb on top of that. So this patch actually uses 54% CPU at the moment. Anyway, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. As usual, of course, this may not be the most efficient way to do this, but I think it's quite a good way of doing it, and it works. And it's fun, and it sounds great. That's the important thing. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in my next video about the Zoia, and goodbye for now. Bye-bye.